This chapter coming up is the roof chapter. We're going to talk about roof coverings, gutters, and chimneys. The important thing to know about doing the inspection on a roof is most of the inspection happens in the attic. Gutters are extremely important, especially in terms of keeping the basement dry. If you have wet basement, you have problems, and gutters are the first way to keep that basement dry. And then, of course, chimneys. It's a structure attached to the home that has myriad of different problems, but the most important thing about chimneys is the fact that it is a fire hazard. They have fires in there, carbon monoxide in there. It's extremely important. So watch this whole chapter, and I'll talk to you later.
For this lesson, we're going to be talking about the roof and ventilation system. Specifically, we're going to show you how to inspect the roof system, the gutter system, and the chimney system. So let's get after it. Now, for each of these systems, we're going to look at them individually and always referring to our checklist. All right, on our checklist, it's broken up to the roof, gutter, and chimney. Now, for each of those systems, you're going to walk around 3 times, one for the roof, one for the chimney, and one for the gutter. So let's get after it. Right here, we're going to be looking at the roof system. If you choose to, you can walk it or have a drone. For this class, we're going to show you how to perform a roof inspection from the ground. We don't like inspecting by walking on the roof because of the possibility of damaging that roof. Secondly, if you're thinking about having a drone, then you're going to have to learn about how to fly it and possibly get an FAA license for your particular area. So for this class, we're going to show you how to perform it from the ground. Now, when we look at the roof, we're going to break it up into sections. We're going to be looking at the material. We're going to be looking at the components as we discussed in the lecture. So here we have an architectural roof, and we're going to be looking for all these type of defects. We're going to be looking for loose shingles, missing shingles, or shingles lifted. Do we see any damage on the roof? Do we see any debris on that roof? Anything of that in which could allow water infiltration to the attic. Now, one important thing that you have to remember, how do you know if a roof is functioning properly? Everyone says, hey, look on the outside. It looks unsightly. It looks old. We need a new roof. Absolutely not. The way to inspect the function of a roof is by going inside the attic. If the attic has water leaks, then the roof is not functioning properly. If the roof has no water leaks, it may look unsightly. It may look 25 years old, but it's still operating and still functioning. That's the key. Now, as we continue on, we're going to be looking at the roof, and also we're going to be determining what type of ventilation. Is there a soffit? Is there a ridge? Now, when we get involved with the roof, we're going to be looking at different penetrations that are going to be coming through the roof. Here we have a metal chimney with a vent pipe. Now, we want to note that, but particularly, we want to look around the penetration of the roof to determine what type of rubber gasket it is. Is it cracking? What's happening to the shingles around that location? And when we get inside the attic, we're specifically going to look in those areas to see if there's any leaks. Now, we want to break up the roof in small sections. So we got the whole back half. So we're going to look at one half of the roof, scan it left to right, from top all the way down to the gutter. And then as we're going to move forward, we're going to walk ourselves around this pergola. Now, there are times, depending on the location where you are, you may have to enter in someone's property. You're definitely going to want to let them know that you're a home inspector and you got to enter that property because of maybe the pitch of the roof or the closest of the homes. So as we continue on, I see a small lifted shingle here. Now, I want to understand that lifted shingle. Is it more of just a singularity of maybe a nail coming up? But if I see multiple lifted shingles, maybe that's due to the wind, or maybe that's due to the actual installation of it. So we're going to take a note of that. We're going to take a wide view, and then we're going to take a center view of that image, and we're going to note in our system, right on our check sheet, that we have a lifted shingle. So when we go back to the computer system, we're going to use the concept of IDEA and write out that defect. So as we continue on, we're only looking at the chimney. We notice that we have a penetration of a satellite system, so we're going to take a look at that inside the attic region. And as we're going through, this looks like a great roof. This is an architectural roof. I'm not really seeing much. And I'm not worrying about the flashing in the chimney. We're going to get involved with that. So what you're going to end up doing is you're going to identify what type of roof it is, how you're inspecting it, the material of the roof. Now remember, just because we have architectural shingles on this side doesn't mean there's architectural shingles on the other side. You can have a metal roof. You can have a flat roof. All right, so we want to identify the style of roofs and the material. And what you're going to do is you're going to walk around the entire house, keeping in mind safety, operation, and condition. And that's how you perform a roof inspection. Now I'm going to show you how to perform a chimney inspection. Looking at our worksheet, our checklist in fact, we're going to be looking at the overall appearance. We want to understand, is the chimney on the inside, the interior of the home, or on the exterior of the home? Because that depends on the type of penetrations and how we look at that location. Next, we're going to be looking at the material it's made out of. Brick, stone, possible vinyl around that chimney. And then after, we're going to be looking at the flue. So, one of the most important items we want to understand is, one, there is a small little gable roof on the back side of that chimney. Because of the width of the chimney and it's sitting on the exterior, that cricket, what we call, diverts the water away from the chimney so it doesn't sit along the base. Next, we're going to be looking at that flashing. We want to make sure that the flashing doesn't have any large gaps. We want to make sure that the shingles are sitting along the base of the flashing, and we want to make sure it's stepped, where one is inside the other. So as water flows, it cannot get captured inside the step flashing. And our mental model is what we see right here, we would like to see on the other side. So as we continue, let's look at the overall condition. Here we have a stone brick. We have a little creosote on the top, so that means the possibility of the chimney needing to be cleaned could be required. We're always going to recommend cleaning of the chimney, which is a level 2. We perform a level 1, and a level 2 is a chimney sweep with a video camera. But we're going to get more into that once we get inside the home. Now we're looking at the back side. Again, we're looking at the flashing. We want to understand what the condition of the flashing is, that there's no large gaps. We want to make sure that they're inside of one another. And remember, we're going to be inside that attic along that chimney to determine the functionality of the flashing on both sides. So when we're going through, we're going to state that it's on the exterior. We notice that we have a stone. We notice that we have a rain cap with a flue. And we can observe that there is a chimney cap. A chimney cap allows the water to run off the top of the chimney. Now, one of the most important parts is there's different styles, and we'll be talking about that in a few moments. When we look at a chimney, we always want to make sure, this is key, we want to make sure that the chimney is straight. We don't want any leaning of the chimney itself away from the home, because that will determine the type of construction and if there's issues. Specifically, we may sometimes see that in exterior wood fireplaces where they have the stone blocks on the outside. Sometimes you see that to be leaning. So it's always critical to look at the condition of the chimney, looking at the mortar along there and making sure it doesn't need to be any repointing, and if the chimney's leaning away from the house overall. And that is how you perform a chimney inspection. Now that we completed an entire roof inspection, we're going to get into the gutter system. Looking at our check sheet, we're going to be determining the material and the functionality of the components. Now let's remember, the function of a gutter system is to remove rainwater away from the house, be it that it's on a slab or on a foundation. Water is our enemy when it comes to a building structure, and that's the functionality of the gutter system, is to get away from the house so we don't have pooling of water and possibly infiltration into the basement system. So as you're looking at the gutter system, of course we're going to be looking at the material, and specifically vinyl, aluminum. Now, there are some gutter systems that are pieced together that you get at Home Depots or Lowe's. What we're seeing now is a single system gutter that they actually make on site. When we're looking at a gutter system, we want to make sure there's a negative slope, a slight slope toward the downspout, so the water is flowing away from the home. Some defects that we may see is a bow, where it has a pitch to the house and toward the downspout. Or maybe it's going to be unlevel and it's completely going toward the house. Things that we also see a lot of the times is there's no gutter helmets, so it's going to fill with debris. Having debris in that gutter system will resist the rainwater leaving the home, and then it's going to start flowing over onto the location. And when that happens, you'll see what is called a rain line. It's an impression inside the grass where the water's continually falling or passing over the gutter system. So as we go forward, we're looking at the gutter system. Now this is a seamless gutter because there's no joints that's in the gutter. And we come back over here, this is our downspout. As the water flows, we're looking at the joints. Specifically, we're trying to understand, is there any leaking of water? And you'll see some staining, possibly some staining on the ground. We want to make sure that it's attached to the home, or here it's attached to the post. As we continue forward, we're going to see that there is a elbow. This particular gutter system does not have an extension. So what could happen is all that rain that's coming off the roof is going to pool in this location and possibly impact this post. Now we don't know if this post has a 4x4 inside of it or is just a column, a plastic column. But what we want to understand is the possibility, is there water penetration in there? So we would possibly lift this up and take our screwdriver underneath here and to see if there's any deterioration. Now, there's a mental idea. The thought is that what is the appropriate extension or the distance for a gutter extension? And everybody says, oh, it's 3 feet. In fact, if you have a negative slope toward your house that's past 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, then a 3-foot gutter extension is not going to work. So the mental model you have to have is the gutter extension has to be beyond the negative slope to ensure that water is going away from the home. So what we're talking about here and how we examine the gutter system is you're going to walk around the entire house and look at each of the eaves and look at the gutter, the downspout, and the extension and what is happening. And that is how you perform a gutter system inspection.
As a home inspector, you will have to visually inspect the roof of the house, including, but not limited to, attachments and/or protrusions. A roof is not defective if it is not leaking. It may be unsightly, it may need repair, or may be beyond the end of its suggested life. But if it is not leaking, the roof system is performing as designed. According to the standards of practice for home inspectors, we do not recommend any particular written remedy and/or design solution, or give architectural or engineering advice. Remember, recommending replacement of any sort is considered a remedy. It is up to a qualified contractor to recommend a remedy or advice about how the defect should be repaired. Even if the home inspector is a qualified roofing contractor, he or she should not give written recommendations about how to repair or replace a roof or any other defect. A home inspector must take off the contractor's hat when performing the role of home inspector. It is a breach of ethics, a conflict of interest, and illegal to perform work on a house you have inspected. You do not want to open yourself up to any liability regarding even a recommendation about what repair or solution is needed. If a roof is old or beyond the end of its suggested life, then this is exactly what should be reported. If a roof is beyond the end of its suggested life and is leaking, this should be reported as a defect, and a qualified contractor should be contacted to evaluate and repair as necessary. If you judge the repairs may be in excess of $1,500, depending on the contract, then this will be classified as a major defect. However, the call to replace the roof is up to the contractor. When performing a home inspection, the home inspector will visually observe all components of the roof and describe the method of construction and roofing materials. The home inspector will, in writing, report any issues or defects found during the inspection and be available to discuss these concerns with the client in a manner to which the client understands. The next section is the New York State Standards of Practice. Following the SOPs will allow the home inspector to perform a proper inspection. Standards of Practice. Roof Systems. Home inspectors shall observe and report on readily accessible roofing materials and condition, roof drainage systems, flashing, skylights, chimneys, and roof penetrations. The home inspector shall report on the methods used to observe the roof and other components set forth in this section. All home inspection reports shall describe the observed condition and type of roofing materials, and shall describe the methods used to observe the roofing. Home inspectors are not required to observe and report on antennas, lightning arresters, or similar attachments, any flue or chimney interior that is not readily accessible, or other installed accessories. Home inspectors are not required to operate power roof ventilators. Home inspectors are not required to determine the remaining life expectancy of roof coverings, manufacturer's defects, installation methods, or recalls, or to determine the number of shingle layers present. Home inspectors are not required to walk on or access a roof where to do so could result in damage to the roof or roofing material or endanger the health and safety of the home inspector. There are two components of a roof, the covering and the deck. The inspector must also report on the style of the roof. The purpose of the covering is to keep the elements of weather off the deck. Typically, a roof deck is constructed from plank board or plywood sheathing. The following table below is a list of roof coverings that may be encountered. Asphalt shingles. A thin mat reinforced typically with a fiberglass or a glass fiber mat that is coated with asphalt, which contains mineral fillers and makes the fiberglass shingle waterproof. Wood shakes. Basic wooden shingles that is made from split logs. The most common length is 24 inches, which contains mineral fillers and makes the fiberglass shingle waterproof. Wood shingles are made from cut wood rather than split wood. Slate roof. Smooth stone that is derived from shale-type sedimentary rock. The shingles are slivers of rock. Clay roof tiles are known for their rich red or terracotta coloring. They are manufactured in glazed or unglazed finish with colors which are always in some shade of red, orange, or earth tones. Metal roof. A roofing system that is made from metal pieces or tiles, typically made of galvanized steel. Rolled rubber. Ethylene propylene diene monomer is a synthetic rubber most commonly used in single-ply roofing because it is readily available and relatively simple to apply. The following illustration provides a few common examples of roof styles. Throughout your home inspection business, you will come across many types of roof styles that may require further research. A few examples of roof styles: a gable roof, cross gable roof, mansard roof, hip roof, pyramid hip roof, cross hipped roof, salt box roof, and gambrel roof flat. Examples of attic supporting structures: truss system, triangular roof construction that spans from exterior wall to another exterior wall. There are several types. Rafters. A rafter is one of a series of sloped structural members, beams, that extend from the ridge or hip to the wall plate, downslope perimeter, or eave, and that are designed to support the roof deck and its associated loads. A gutter is a trough that is beside the edge of the roof, carrying rainwater away from the foundation of the house. And downspouts are vertical pipe that are connected to the gutter, guiding the rainwater. Fascia is the horizontal region underneath the edge of the roof, and skylights are overhead windows mounted in the roof region, allowing light into the house. There are several types of skylights. Vent pipes allow gas from the waste system to exhaust to the outside. Drain pipes, found on flat roofs, the drain pipe redirects the rainwater from the roof to the drainage system. The spark arrestor, or rain cap, prevents embers rising up and landing on your roof, and shields rainwater entering the chimney. Soffit vents are for air passage underneath the fascia boards that allow air circulation through the attic. Gable vents are vents installed on the front face of the gable, allowing air circulation through the attic. And roof vents allow air to pass through the attic region to the outside. A ridge vent is a vent that is installed at the peak of the roof, which allows warm, humid air to escape the attic. Valley flashing is a thin, continuous metal sheet that is installed to intersecting roofs. Step flashing is individual pieces of flashing installed to prevent water penetration at any roof penetration. As a new home inspector, you'll need to establish your own standard for a roof inspection. Some home inspectors walk on roofs when they deem it safe to themselves and the roof covering to do so. Many home inspectors never walk on roofs. Our New York Standards of Practice says that we do not have to walk on roofs, but does not prohibit us either. The advantages of walking on a roof are self-evident. You'll have a closer look at the condition of the covering, chimney, gutters, and penetrations. The disadvantages are also self-evident. Walking on a roof is hazardous to you personally, and you may damage the roof covering. It creates a situation at every inspection that you have to decide. Should I walk or shouldn't I walk? There are several variables involved in this decision. The variables include age of roof, style of roof, height of roof, and weather conditions. One factor remains: even if you walk on the roof, you still don't know if it is leaking or not. If you decide not to walk on a roof, a ladder can sometimes be used to get a closer look with reasonable safety. But even this is not mandated by the standards of practice. When inspecting a roof from the ground, a pair of binoculars is very helpful. Be sure to view the roof from all sides before filling out your worksheet. Determine the condition of the roof covering. Try to determine the approximate age of the covering. With some coverings, this is impossible. Gather all the available data you can and make your best judgment. One important thing to remember is to never recommend replacement of a covering. Replacement is a solution or remedy. The home inspector should recommend a qualified contractor to repair as necessary. Leave the solution to the qualified roof contractor.
Okay, this chapter is about the roof. What you've already learned and we talked about are the standards of practice in terms of inspecting a roof. The first thing the standards of practice wants you to do is to go out and identify the type of roof and try and approximate its age. And it doesn't really matter when it comes down to the practicality of inspecting what kind of roof covering it is, whether it's slate, architectural shingle, metal roof, it just doesn't matter. The key to inspecting roofs is the simple question, is it leaking? Attorneys will call you and ask you, is that roof functioning? If not, it just needs to be repaired. If it's leaking, then you can say to fix it. But if it's not leaking, there's nothing you can really say about it. You need to understand that the best way to inspect a roof is from the attic. And hopefully you pick that up through the chapter. But if there's one thing that you need to learn, it's all about the leak when it comes to a roof. Get into that attic, if there is an attic, and look as thoroughly as you can in the attic. If it's not leaking, then that roof is operating as designed. It may be old, it may be deteriorated, but it's still operating, and there's nothing we can do as home inspectors other than informing your client, well, it's at the end of its useful life, it may need replacing at any time. The one thing about roofs that's important for you to understand is I don't teach in our school that you have to walk on roofs. I've never seen an inspector yet that walked on a roof and could tell whether it was leaking. It may look bad, and the flashing around chimneys may look bad or be ugly, but that doesn't mean it's leaking. So, and there's so many liabilities to getting on the roof. You're going to ruin the warranty on the roof, you're going to fall off the roof, there's a whole list of things that can go wrong. And the most important thing is, I think, a subtle thing. If you walk on some roofs and don't walk on other roofs, you in your mind think that the roof you didn't walk on didn't get as good an inspection. But if you never walk on roofs and you're thorough in the attic, then you're giving the same due diligence on every roof. That's an important psychological reason not to get on a roof. So that's it for the exterior roof inspection. Let's go on to the quiz.